Yep.
Okay, so now the meeting is being live streamed and recorded. With that, then I would like to welcome everybody to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, March 14th at 8 a.m. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is my update. I just think real quickly, we were fortunate that literally, as far as I understand, no power outages last night that we're aware of, that we've been informed about, and minimal flooding, just a lot of rain. My understanding this storm is going to continue today, though, obviously, and we might get some light snow later this morning into the afternoon. So it's not over, but luckily it hasn't been a big event for Madison at this point. And then the winds that they had originally been forecasting, from what our operations director said, are now might go from Tuesday night into Wednesday. So just stay alert still. And, the winds is really the thing that, really kicks up sometimes and causes a lot of issues for us with the flooding and as well as power outages. Otherwise, I will pass on any other updates at this point, and any liaison reports.
We just met.
Yeah, I know. I just feel like we met, didn't we?
I just have to find them. I apologize. I've got a mess of papers on my desk.
Know the feeling.
Here we go. Okay, so just some quick and happy news. We always know that summer is coming when the beach passes are about to start being sold. So they've been ordered, and the hope is that by the end of this week, you will be able to run out and buy your beach pass for the season, which saves you the hassle of doing it on the Friday before the holiday that you want to go. So the rates, not a lot of changes there. $40 for most of us. Seniors are $10, age 65 and older. And what's new this year, and has to do with the money that we received from the state at Garvin Point, it puts some limits on what we could do with regards to out of town and guest passes. We're offering a season pass. They'll be limited. They'll be limited to 100 in total, but non-residents will be able to pay $112 to get a season's pass, 100 of them.
And also the senior age, right? I don't know if you're going to report that. That is a change.
Age 65.
Right. It used to be age 60. And that was a change to align it with the senior center. It was kind of odd that we had, like, for some reason, the beach stickers was kind of one age group, and then all the other senior services in town are 65. So I think the commission, this was probably in the fall, had voted to align everything with the rest of the town policies. So, but I think you're grandfathered if you were 63 or 62 and had been buying it at the senior rate, you would continue to get it at the senior rate. So you can renew this year at the same rate. So for those people that are kind of in between 60 and 65, you should be fine.
Right. So yeah, that was just it. Someone will be here before you know it. And maybe it won't even snow this summer.
Hard to see the forest through the trees, Bruce. Right.
Okay, with that, any other liaison reports? Because I know there's probably not time for a lot of meetings. Great.
The 16th, on the 16th, on Thursday, is the Madison Youth and Family 40th anniversary celebration. So just a reminder that is coming up.
That's on, what's the date of that again?
Thursday, the 16th. So in 2 days.
That's right. I was just double checking that is on my calendar.
Very good.
Yes. Okay. All right, I guess any hands raised this morning for citizens' comments?
None at the moment.
Okay, great. And there'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting if people wish to ask additional questions. Item number 5, may I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
We probably should just make a quick comment. I mean, there's a monetary donation in there from Neighbor to Neighbor and Lori Heflin. So huge thank you. If we could just note that from the full board.
Yeah, we're always very grateful. And I know Neighbor to Neighbor has just been an incredible source of funding.
Unbelievable.
A lot of
Unbelievable.
programs. So
Yeah.
always grateful for that. And now I'll turn it over to, we have an update from our new school building committee. So I'd like to go ahead and invite up the chair of the building committee and I'm not sure, I think the superintendent might be in attendance as well as some staff members.
So we're getting Graham 2 meetings in a row here. What's going on?
Okay.
I have a couple of people with me. Justin, the architect, Justin, and then Adam Viticus also should be on board.
Okay. And
Cool.
Anybody from the school district here? I don't see it. I'm on the.
I thought Bill said that the superintendent had a late conflict. He wouldn't be able to attend, but Bill said he would be able to
Is there any
There he is.
questions?
There he is.
Okay.
any questions. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this is kind of really our first formal update from the building committee. So first of all, I want to thank you for all your hard work, Graham. I know this has been a huge lift, and to all the members of the committee. I know a lot has happened. You've hired architects, you've been going on, and there's been a lot of discussion out there in the public about the status of the project. And so I think it would be great if you could just, since it's the first one, just kind of walk through where you are in the process and let us know where you are.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen here. Let's see here. Tell me when you can see my screen. Oh, let me share.
Yep, we got
There
it.
you go.
Okay, beautiful. I'm a Teams guy, so this Zoom stuff throws me.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Graham.
But
Can you make it bigger for the old guys in the room? Is there a way
Yeah.
to full screen it?
yeah, let me zoom in. Can you? I'll
Yeah, that's better. That's perfect. That's great.
Okay. I'm gonna zoom in. I go slideshow, but I want to like zoom in into stuff. So
Yeah.
you know the drill.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you very much for having us and putting us on early on the agenda. Much appreciated. So we're just going to kind of give an update. Let me. So this is these are the items we're going to update you on. So we're going to give you a schedule summary, kind of high level overview of the schedule. We'll discuss where we are with the land use permitting process. Then we'll show you the current state of the architectural plans, the current state of the site plans, and then we'll briefly discuss the budget and where we are in that process. So any questions about that? Good. So here is can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is across the top. This is the macro schedule. Obviously across the top is years. 2023 is where we are. Along the left, obviously, is the milestones, major milestones, and I'll go into a little more detail on that. The red line, the current status, the vertical red line is where we are right now in mid-March 2023. The blue, the darker blue bar is the design process, which is 17 months. So we're basically halfway through that process. Specifically, if you look at the detail, we're nearing the end of design development, or DD as we call it. So that's the time when we kind of develop most of the spaces. We haven't finalized the plans, but it's a time where we finalize the plan, get enough information, the spaces, and we understand. And then subsequent to that, we'll get a updated cost estimate from our construction manager, Gil Bain, and then we'll go through a process of reconciliation and figure out what we need to do to get the project back on budget if necessary. The light green bar is the local permitting process, which we're just starting now, and I'll go into a little more detail about that. That's the way you get a lot of additional public input, so on and so forth. We've already had numerous meetings outreach meetings, but that'll give the public a lot more opportunity to discuss, and input. So we can never have enough public outreach. That being said, we go through that process. Then that feeds into information into the contract documents of the 100% plans. And the plan is to complete that one final reconciliation estimate. And then we go to bid in December of this year. Then 15 months for construction, and then occupancy in the summer of 2025, and then school opens in the fall of 2025. So that's the macro schedule. Any questions about that before I go into some more of the details? No?
Quick question.
Yep. Oh,
That's pretty much what the schedule was laid out last year before the referendum, correct? So you're pretty much on schedule now?
exactly.
Okay.
On schedule.
I'd
Yep.
like to hear that.
Have you not met Graham?
Very good team.
Great job.
I'm only a slight participant in the building committee's been great. We've
Yeah.
had excellent owners reps who's on the call,
Awesome.
staff were great. So it's been, very collaborative. I can hardly take credit for it. And Colliers is doing a great job. Adam Leviticus, who's on the call, has been a shiny example of how to be an owner's rep. So, that said, so this is now we're just starting this process. So this is the land use permitting process and / outreach, input. So these are some of the boards we're gonna have to go through. ACA, I'm sure you're all aware of. They'll review the plans for architectural and site plan issues, and they're advisory to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we've already, had some preliminary discussions. I think the plan may already have the plans, and we'll be meeting with them over the next month. Obviously we have to go through this process before we go to the Planning and Zoning. The Wetlands Commission, they'll protect the environmental issues of the town. We have submitted that application already, and there is, I believe, a site walk planned with the commission on the 18th of this month. They'll be hiring their own expert to review the plans, and we'll go back and forth with comments to make sure there's absolutely no impact. We're very comfortable with what the plans are right now, but we appreciate the input from outside experts. And then probably in May there'll be a public hearing. They've already determined this is a significant impact. There'll be a public hearing, input, et cetera, and hopefully come out of that in May, June with an approval. Planning and Zoning Commission, this is a special permit because it's a school use in a residential district, so that will require a special permit and a public hearing. That process will probably follow the ACA Wetlands Commission process, or parallel to some extent, but it won't be approved until after those other elements conclude. The rest are the septic system. As you know, because the land trust was willing to accept the donation of some of the property, we were able to stay out of the DEP. So we stayed with the Connecticut Department of Health, which is an equally protective design, criteria. It's just a different process that doesn't require an 18-month hearing process. So we were able to do that. I appreciate the shout out to the land trust. We are going to be meeting with them and walk the site and discuss the pollinator garden, the landscaping along the river, and try to, a trail to make sure that everyone's happy and we see them as a partner. The other items, state of Connecticut review, they'll review that, make sure we're spending the state's money, state share the money wisely, go through the process, check the boxes. And that's already, the preliminary meetings have been held, and there'll be additional meetings as we come through the design. And then finally will be a building permit so we can start construction. So that's the high level overview on the land use stuff. And we hope that this is concluded in 4 or 5 months. And again, outreach, we've already met with some of the neighbors. There's been numerous meetings with the design team. We've met one-on-one with the neighbors. They've identified their concerns. We've already incorporated some of that. We will plan on incorporating that into the design, but that'll be filtered through ACA and the Planning and Zoning Commissions. And, it'll ultimately be a consensus of the right solutions for that. But they've, the neighbors have been great. We get very high level of participation from the neighbors. So that's that. Any questions on those items?
Is there any incremental cost related to, conversations with the neighbors and things that you might had to adjust relative to the design, Graham?
Good question. Yeah, they did ask for some things, some fencing, some additional landscaping. There was a strong preference for a sidewalk along the frontage.
Yep.
Which, probably makes sense. We're going to have to potentially remove some of the trees and maybe rebuild the stone wall. The neighbors were more concerned about safety than, the stone wall. The trees obviously is a very sensitive subject. So we had an arborist go out and take a look at some of the trees are in bad shape. So we think we can judiciously incorporate a stone wall, a sidewalk along the frontage. The other thing, some of the neighbors were concerned about the traffic backing up and how it would impact them, justifiably. So we're going to do an additional traffic study to look at how, the early morning traffic impacts, things like that. And we probably are going to change the plans a little bit about the parent drop. I mean, that's still a little bit in the flux, but there was a lot of concern expressed what happens in the parent drop. And in inclement weather days, obviously a lot of parents in the time of COVID choose to drop their kids off. So we may increase the amount of parent drop. So we're going to do a study. We're going to look at what's going on at Jeffrey, in the parent drop, the AM, pickup type thing. So the design's evolving. And again, we're at design development, which is about, 35% of the design, funds. Time wise, it's like half, but it's really like a third of the way. So this is the time to incorporate those comments and get the land use people and the public, everyone, input. And then the idea is to capture all that, get the budget tightened up, and then do the CDs and have a really tight bid package.
The parent drop piece makes a lot of sense to me, Graham, just in the sense that we're consolidating multiple elementary schools into one. And so, I would think that, if we look at the throughput of just Jeffrey or just Ryerson, right, it's one thing, but now it's magnified given it's going to be one school. So I think that's a smart call out.
Yeah, exactly. And even in the special events, we know that, this is the parent night thing, the question, you don't necessarily design the entire school for the one occasion, but we get as much as we can. And we're probably going to have to set up a program of shuttle, running shuttle buses, having people park at the high school, and maybe running a shuttle bus and things like that. But we want to make sure we have put those plans in place, just from an operational point of view, and just to reassure the neighbors that it's not going to be, problematic, during those events.
Graham, would it be possible or ever make sense to consider widening that portion of the road to accommodate an additional turning lane?
I think that's something we'll look at. I mean, widening, the issue with the widening on the street would be you'd impact the trees, and the stone wall, but we'll look at that. Hopefully we can solve the problem on the property. It's easier to add a turning lane on our property, but we're going to look at that. There was people expressed concern about what was going on at Mungertown and Green Hill there, that it backed up. Again, it's, the school is not, it's early in the morning, so the normal traffic is not there, but we're going to look at all those issues. And we think that's probably going to be the biggest discussion in planning and zoning, what happens in the morning and afternoon peak. So, but the road I think the sidewalk is an important component for safety, because the high school kids jog along there. If you walk in there, there isn't that much width in the road. There's not a wide road there, so there's not much shoulder. So you really want to be safe and off up on the street, on the curb. So, that answer your question, Bruce?
Yep.
So with that boring stuff out of the way, we'll talk about the exciting stuff with the architectural plans and things like that. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to let Justin, the architect who's with the architectural firm, show us the current state of the plans. So Justin, if you can share your screen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Graham, and good morning. Justin Hopkins, project manager with Tecton Architects. We also have Jeff Wazinski, who's the principal in charge in the audience. If there's a way that we can let him in as well. And I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everybody see the full screen?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So Graham, we're going to start at the site. So here's an illustrated site plan. North is to the top of the screen. Mungertown Road, you will see, is to the left of the screen, or west, plan west. Our new elementary school is 2 stories. But the main level is shown in the center of the site plan as indicated. As everybody's probably aware of the site, we slope from west to east as we go down the hill towards the wetlands and ultimately the river. So the building footprint accommodates this topography change where we're navigating the topography shift kind of in the middle of the building footprint. So the lower level is at grade and the main level is at grade at the upper level of the site. We have 3 parking areas, one to the north, one to this, and then 2 to the south. One is at the kind of upper level of the site and one is at the lower level of the site. This inset shows a potential study for bus pickup and drop off, and I can get to that when we get into the diagrams of the site. But in order to illustrate the change in the topography, you'll see a simple site section here showing Mungertown Road to the left of the screen and the lower area of the site all the way to the right. So you will see at the main building footprint or the main level, we are at grade closer to the western portion of the site. And at the lower level, we're at grade at the lower portion of the site. So from an accessibility issue, from an accessibility perspective and egress out of the building, access to the associated playscapes, each level of the building is at grade. So I'm just going to move the audience out of the way. So as Graham had mentioned, we're studying locations of parent pickup and drop off and bus pickup and drop off. The current plans are to provide the parent pickup and drop off in the lower parking area, and that will allow for some visitor parking in the area of C and staff parking in the area of D. We have approximately 185 parking spots available in the southern parking areas. Our age-appropriate playscapes are indicated in E. So we have our pre-K and K playscape closer to where they are in the building. We have a hard court basketball court as well as an elementary age playscape. One thing to mention about the bus pickup and drop off in the northern portion, you'll see we're investigating the concept of having a fleet style parking or regatta style parking for the bus queuing. The impetus for that is to make sure that we're able to get the buses off of the street so they're not queuing on Mungertown Road. One of the benefits, potential benefits of investigating this is during off hours, we can use this as overflow parking and we can accommodate approximately 40 additional parking spaces. So think of maybe a basketball tournament during the weekends or a STEAM or book fair night where there may be more members of the public that will be needing to park. So the goal is to get everything off of the street and on the site. A couple other things. We have our green space recreation. We're calling it the play field, although it's not a formal play field. It is free play green space down at the eastern portion of the site. We are proposing a pathway, pollinator pathway along the perimeter of this green space to start to reinforce some of this connection to the land trust areas and reinforce some outdoor teaching and outdoor curriculum. We do have an area that is off of our cafeteria that is our outdoor learning space. Our loading and utilities area is indicated in I, that's down at the lower portion of the site. And we also have our geothermal well field that we're positioning in the northern portion of the site, away from any of the playscapes or exterior curriculum areas. So this is something that we've been holding in the design in order to have a carbon-free building. So all of the heating and cooling will be carbon-free. So just a description of how these floor plans stack. You'll see I won't hold you to being able to read any of these floor plans, so consider these diagrammatic. The main level to the top of the screen, the lower level to the bottom of the screen. You can see this in the exploding axonometric to the right, how these floor plans kind of stack on top of each other. So from a building diagram, our main entry is directly adjacent to the parent pickup and drop off. That's on axis to the bus pickup and drop off. Our main entry is through a secure vestibule to the administrative area. So here we have our building admin and our nurse suite. We also have some faculty space closer to our curriculum areas. In broad summary, our learning communities are indicated in H. So at the main level, we have our kindergarten and pre-kindergarten. Towards the western portion of the floor plan, we have our grades 1 and 2 towards the eastern portion of the floor plan. We also are locating our specials towards the heart of the building. So as you walk in, all of our specials are kind of right in the middle of the floor plan, organized between the lower level and the main level, and within close proximity to each one of the learning communities. So on the main level, we have our media center and our art room, STEAM, and music. The areas indicated in I are our special education and resource areas. So what we've tried to do is locate them close to the learning communities in order to support any type of pull out, push in special education or resource closer to the actual students' classrooms. On the lower level, we have our cafeteria and kitchen, and that's close to our loading and service area. So all of our utilities will come in towards the back of this floor plan. Our gymnasium is located in G. In between the gym and the cafeteria, we have a double-sided stage or platform. So this will double as both instrumental music classroom, but also be able to support an all-school assembly in the gymnasium, or a more focused, a smaller presentation that will be able to front into the cafeteria. So larger floor plan of the main level. A couple of things to mention as we're focusing on this. We do have a enclosed courtyard that is near the kindergarten and pre-kindergarten area. So this is open to the air. The building perimeter goes around it. That's accessible through this corridor, but also accessible through the media center. Our areas that are open to below on the main floor are the gymnasium. There's a wall that's, the gym is a double height space. So along the corridors of our learning communities, we're able to look into the gym. We also have a double height space over the cafeteria. One of the things that is really neat about this organization is that we have a tiered, or what we call learning or communicating stair, that goes down to the cafeteria. So this double height space gives the opportunity to have informal instruction within the cafeteria outside of the lunch waves, but also helps connect the two floors, the main level and the lower level. As we go to the lower level, you will see we have some tiered seating or terrace seating that is directly on axes to the stage, but also fronts the cafeteria. So the idea is that this is a double height space that allows for some interesting or dynamic communication between the upper level and the main level. Couple things. So we've held 3 public forums, and we've also been holding some working sessions with members of the administration, the faculty, teacher liaisons. So this is an example of some of the work that we've been doing with the district with respect to making sure that we're providing some continuity between the classroom spaces. So these are 4 slides that we went over specific to the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten classrooms. The slide that's in the upper left indicates kind of the partie of how we are looking at the classroom space, where we have a ready, set, go, where students come in, they're able to put their backpacks, jackets, boots, umbrellas on a day like today in their cubbies. We have an in-classroom toilet space. We also have an area that we call focus and learning. This is where the furniture or the desks can be arranged in any way to support traditional learning, group learning, peer-to-peer, etc. We also have an activity kind of informal space towards the back of the classroom where we can have kind of free group project-based learning, etc. So some of the things that we've been studying with the team are the flexibility of the furniture within these classrooms, the location of both fixed or built-in millwork for storage, and also what will ultimately be part of FF&E. And coupled with that are studies of some of our finishes and color schemes. So as we're looking at these for consideration, again, what storage is built in versus what storage will be just simply purchased bookcases, et cetera. We're going through our security features in each of the classrooms, making sure that our lines of sight both support a teacher that's able to see out to the corridor through the door, but also providing areas within the classroom that we know will be safe zones that have no visibility from the corridor into the classroom. So unfortunately, these are always considerations that we have as we look at these things, the ability to shelter in place during a lockdown scenario. So that's extended to our typical grade 1 and 2 classrooms. You'll see very similar diagrams. The thing that's unique here is our grades 1 and 2 classrooms also have an in-classroom toilet. They also have cubby storage within the classrooms. So the other thing that we're obviously working through is where our technology is located to support kind of the traditional teaching station instruction, but also make sure that we have areas for mobile workstations, where Chromebooks can be charged, and where some of the power and data is within the classrooms. I know they're more detail-based conversations, but it's important for you to know that we're going through these. Grades 3 and 5 classrooms, similar diagram, making sure that we're providing the same concept of the ready, set, go, focused learning and small group learning. Different type of furniture in here to support a more typical classroom setup, individual desks. These desks in particular can be organized in a number of ways to kind of support a bench traditional setup, individual desks for test taking. They can also be grouped together for group-based learning as well. And then I think finally, a perspective view to the entry cafeteria. This kind of reinforces some of the topography that we were discussing in the site plan, where we have the upper level main entry up the hill here, our informal learning area down directly adjacent to the cafeteria. So the idea is that we can, for events such as that may occur in the cafeteria or the gymnasium, we can support a separate entry that allows the community use of the gymnasium without getting into any of the curriculum spaces. So this area in particular would likely be the community entrance for those instances, nights, weekends, when an event is occurring there. So at this time, that's basically where we are. As Graham mentioned, we're wrapping up our design development. Very interested in getting through the cost estimate process and reconciliation process. With that, I'm happy to toggle back to any of the slides if you have any questions relative to the material that we showed you.
Well, I want to thank you for the presentation. It's the first time actually I've seen all the designs, and it's very exciting. It's going to be a beautiful school. I guess that I think one of the things when the discussion about purchasing the property, 2 years ago, it sounds like there are some limitations because of the topography. So, you can't have as much parking as maybe ideally you'd want to have. So it might be helpful to understand that a little bit more, like what, restrictions you've had to moderate the design. It sounds like elevations. Is that because otherwise you'd have to do a lot more site work to level it all on one level, or is that intentional to just, make it more aesthetically pleasing?
So I can tell you it's very rare that we have a completely flat site, and we have had a number of buildings, new buildings that have incorporated the changes in elevations on a site. So from a topography standpoint, the building layout works actually very well. One of the things that is nice about it, and I alluded to it as part of the presentation, is that we're able to get an at-grade means of egress at both floors, which is something that we wouldn't be able to do if we had a flat site and had, say, a 2-story building. In the event of an egress situation, we would have to utilize some of the vertical circulation, elevator, stairs in order to egress. So from a building organization and level organization, it works really well. In terms of the parking, the part of the kind of jujitsu here that we're going through is making sure that we're accommodating enough parent queuing space for up to 100 cars that will drop off students or pick them up. So one of the things that we had looked at originally, that site plan had parent and pickup and drop off to the northern portion, and bus pickup and drop off to the southern portion of the site. One of the recent things that we've studied and incorporated as a revision is to basically swap that. And there's simply less queuing required for the buses than there is for the parents. So that's from a site circulation standpoint. For parking, we know we have about 145 faculty that need to park there. So we baseline that as 150 parking spaces with approximately 30 visitor parking spaces. So at any time during the day, we're able to accommodate visitors that will be able to come to the site. The thing that as a team we have tried to incorporate is where this bubble parking is, or where this overflow parking could be, in order to limit the amount of shuttling that may be necessary. And one of the things that's we're really optimistic about for this kind of regatta style parking for the buses is that can double as free play for students, hot top play for students during the day, but also that 40 to 45 additional parking spaces. It is kind of uncommon for a school this size to have 250 parking spaces. That's frankly on the higher end than what we typically see. But we're able to kind of build in those additional parking spaces by using that bus area.
Well, I guess it sounds like a lot of this is accommodating because you don't want to impact Mungertown Road, right, and have a bigger impact on the neighborhood. So there's been a lot of effort to, limit that. My kids went to Island Avenue, so cars were parked all over the place at Island Avenue to attend events. I know Ryerson has a lot more substantial parking, so they don't have those issues up at Ryerson. And Jeffrey is very challenging too. So it sounds like we're not going to be having people piled all over the sides of the road. If there's an event, you're going to try to limit as much that's going out into the road and try to keep it on site. So that's a great thing for the neighborhood, I think, and also for the parents too. So that's helpful to know.
Justin, Scott Murphy, one of the selectmen, I'm curious, I gave the superintendent a little bit of crap during his budget discussion, but I'm curious on the sort of the arts side of the conversation and design relative to the music program and bolstering the music program at a very young age. I'm just curious how much of that has been kind of, a part of the design discussion. And the word on the street was they might be in a closet near the boiler. And I just want to make sure that, we give the appropriate, respect to the music program as we do athletics and other things, that we're thinking about this in a balanced way.
Yes, so there are two music spaces within the building. One is on the main level, that is kind of the traditional music room. That is located in very close proximity to the media center, the art room. So we're really treating it geographically within the building as an equal partner in terms of the heart of the school and the functions that are occurring there. One of the things that we're doing with the stage that is directly adjacent to the gymnasium and the cafeteria is that we're providing foldable partitions that basically close off each stage opening to be able to utilize that as an instrumental classroom space. So both classrooms, if you will, have storage directly associated with them to be able to store all of the important musical instruments. Bill, I see Bill raised his hand.
So I'd like to comment on not specifically that, but in general, my experience and the amount of input we're getting from the superintendent, the future principal, the staff is much more than I've ever seen in my experience. And when it comes down to what we all need and want, I am on the list too, trying to tell Justin how much space I want for my custodial staff. So I think it depends on what department you talk to, and everyone wants to get their input right away because this building is going to be there 50 years. But it's interesting to me that if we pick one topic, I think we could pick any topic: special ed, facilities, the principal's office, the nurse's office. Believe me, we all have to make some reasonable concessions, including me, for facility stuff that we want for this building. But I believe that we have a great team. We have great input from the school and the community. And Dr. Cook apologized he couldn't make it today. But I think that he would agree with me that they're having a lot of input. So there's got to be some compromise. I'm sure everybody would like to see more space in their area, but I think we're getting good input, and I think we have a good team to resolve those issues.
I think we need to consider Billy for the Board of Selectmen at some point when he retires. Boy, that was a great answer, Bill.
That was the politician's
Any ideas,
answer.
please.
Mr. Murphy, to answer your specific question, the music room is not near in a closet near the boiler. So.
Nice. Thank you.
Also, I just want to highlight, I love the concept of the shared stage. That's a great, use of space and, allowing for things that accommodate different, sizes and audiences and the types of performances that are being done. So that's a great concept there.
Did I understand the stage correctly that you can view it from two angles? Is it like?
So so there are two openings to the stage. One fronts the cafeteria. One fronts the gymnasium. So they can be closed by a folding partition. So you can either open it into the gym with the cafeteria side closed, or you can open it into the cafeteria with the gym side closed. So that's the flexibility that we're trying to build into the organization.
Cool. And noise has been considered as well.
Yes.
That partition.
Yes, we're reviewing STC requirements of the folding partition, STC sound transmission coefficient, to make sure that these can be, when believe me, as the father of kids that have had recorders, alto saxophones, and now a violin, I understand the importance of making sure that we have
Like you're
appropriate
thinking,
sound deadening. Yeah.
when they all grown up, they all sit in your office here. So I have the trumpet here if you need one.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure many parents in the community are looking for assurance about airflow in all of the spaces. Could you just comment on that?
Yes, so we will have what's called, in addition to the heat pumps that are associated with the geothermal well field, that takes care of some of our heating and cooling. We have what's called a dedicated outside air system that is specific to the ventilation, both the air supply and return for each curriculum space. One of the things that we also have within each classroom is an operable window, although the requirement for that is more of a safety consideration. Mechanical engineers don't like us saying you can always open the window, but there are operable windows. But the total load of the building, both for fresh air supply and return, are incorporated by a DOAS unit, dedicated outside air system.
I just want to note that Selectman Wilson is having some IT issues, so he may log off and log back on, just so you're aware. And Gene, if you're listening, he might need to get added back to the meeting if he comes, if he logs out. So I'm wondering, I guess, Graham, are you going to continue on? Because obviously there's another big topic on the agenda there.
So if I can share my screen, if you're done asking questions of our architect, I'll share my screen and let me know whenever you can see my screen. Oh, sorry.
Yep, got it.
Okay. So here's the high-level overview of where we are on the budget. So the original schematic design budget, or SD, was approximately $10 million over, which wasn't shocking due to escalation issues and some other issues that we were dealing with. So at the end of the SD process, we identified $3 million in value engineering or cost savings, some of which required us to go back to the Board of Education and had to make changes to the ed spec, which they agreed to, reducing some of the classroom sizes, which were comparable to what Brown would be. So that was much appreciative on their takes. We saved the $3 million. We identified $5 million, but potentially moving from other projects in the referendum approval. As I'm sure all of you recall, the referendum covered 3 projects, and there was wording in there to allow some relocation of the money with approval process. So we identified that potentially being needed. $2.5 million for the Inflation Reduction Act, which will cover 30% of the cost of the geothermal heat pump system, et cetera, et cetera. And there's potentially, you can get more money than that if you use American-made products, which you get 40% of the money. But right now we're just targeting the 30% or $2.5 million. In red is the schematic design contingency. That during the design process, we have design contingency in addition to the regular contingencies, the owners and construction contingencies. This is because it's schematic design, the design hasn't been fully vetted. So we carry $4 million. We didn't want to take all that money at this point. So we allocated about $2 million of that potentially would be needed. And that allowed us to close on paper the $10 million and move forward to design development. The design development plans will be finished approximately end of this month. The estimator, Gil Bain and Nick Conti, I think Nick's on. I apologize for not inviting him in, but if someone could move him into a panelist if you have any questions. But basically they'll take the plans that are developed in design development, they'll do the estimate, and then we'll go through a process of reconciliation and also what additional value engineering and what we need to do to close that gap. But again, that's all, and as things, as Bill mentioned, the wish list creeps in. So there's things that creep into the job during design development. At some point you have to reconcile the budget and make those hard decisions, which we'll have to do also incorporate whatever changes from the neighbors, land use, ACA, and to get to the project back on budget. But that's, and I think as Bill said, we have a great team to do that, and some hard decisions will have to be made at that point, and we'll obviously be coming back to you shortly thereafter with some recommendations. So that's basically the high level where we are with the budget. If there's any questions, on that.
So when you talk about the design development budget, that's basically fully costed out based on, the cost estimates that we would be using for today. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the construction markets, supply chain, constraints, inflation. Are we starting to see a little bit of relief from that, and that this project actually wouldn't go out to bid until the end of this year, correct? So,
right. So So, I mean, we are capturing what we think is a conservative escalation moving forward in the future. As we get closer to the bid date, that becomes more real. I think construction managers, and we instead of going a general contractor, we hired a construction manager. So we'd have that critical input, and supply chain things during the design process. And we were, we picked one of the preeminent K-12 construction managers in Connecticut and Gilbane. So we're excited because they have that global national reach. But we're, it's a long story short. Yes, we've got the escalation. We'll know more relative to, it was softening a little bit. Some of the supply chain issues were getting better, but lately I'm hearing it's getting a little worse or back to where it was a few months ago. I think there may be a lot of federal money flowing into this. The IIJA and the IRA acts, projects are getting in the pipeline, and there's a lot of electrical stuff. The problems on supply chain tend to be electrical, and there's a lot of electrical, infrastructure ongoing. So there's like switchgear, generators are being delayed. But if we have to, we'll pre-procure that. We're going to have to make that decision. If we need to order something in advance of construction, before going out to bid, we may have to do that. It is probably likely we may come and ask for authorization to proceed with, buying some equipment early in advance of the design. We hope not have to do that because it gets complicated when the owner provides purchases stuff beforehand and give it to the contractor. But we think we need that. I've had many projects that are being delayed again and again because of switchgear and things like that. So
yeah, the town is seeing that as well, especially with a very high profile project downtown. So it's a little frustrating, but I think, anything you can do to lock things down, because obviously that creates all kinds of delays, right? If you can't get some of that critical infrastructure equipment for the project. So the opportunity to lock it down and get it ordered or reserved or earmarked or whatever is a good thing. But I guess then the contingency, when we talk about a 10 million and over budget, just so I understand though, that is including the contingency, right?
Yeah, it includes everything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So,
escalation, things like that, our contingency, the construction contingency,
right.
So as I said, so the intent is the design contingency starts at 4 million and goes basically to zero when you finish the design. We would still have contingencies, the other contingencies, but the design contingency basically evolves and goes towards zero as you complete the design. So that's just an extra, pot of, what's drawn at this paper, it's at SD, it's balloons. At design development, it's a little more real, but it hasn't been fully, completely fully vetted. And there's always things that maybe aren't the plans, things that you don't expect. So that's why we have that 4 million.
So really by, May is when there would be a better handle on, budget, right? Where the board might have to take into just consideration, understanding the budget, and then where the building committee might have to make some decisions at that point. So you're looking more towards May.
Right, May, yeah, the building committee, maybe the Board of Ed we have to go back to the Board of Ed, asking for some more relief or something. But there's, a lot, there's a lot of variables, but, collaboratively, and like I said, we're going through the land use approval, so there's things coming out of that process also, so. But
and I do, from what I understand, the Board of Ed did actually make some I think, you originally go out with these projects, you have, as anybody that does a building project, they have their wish list, so to speak, of this is how we would love this to be, but then you come back and understand that the budget's not going to allow for certain things. So a lot of that has been kind of re-engineered, right, through on the Board of Ed side already into the school.
Exactly. So we went back and asked for some relief on some of the classrooms
Yeah.
and stuff like that. The other way to deal with it is to do bid alternates, things that, because the estimate is only an estimate, and until you actually get people willing to bid on it, you don't know what the numbers can be. They can range by, a couple percent one way or the other. So what we'll do to have some flexibility is put bid alternates into some of the things that won't affect the design, like the playgrounds, things like that. We may do those as bid alternates. So, most of the time, hopefully we're conservative with our estimates. And then we can put those projects, as the contingency, as we go through the design, some of the construction contingencies can be used to put that back in, in bid alternates and things like that. So we'll come up with a list, hopefully of a couple $1 million in bid alternates, that we have some flexibility to use, as we go through construction. Because we at the end of the job, we want to spend all the money and get as much value as we can,
Right.
Project. But, some people like, maybe we have a storage shed for some exterior equipment. That's a great bid alternate. You know what I mean? That gives you some flexibility, as we go out to bid. So there's multiple ways to, tackle this, but the key is to have a great team that can make these decisions and good partners, with the Board of Ed and, the other town committees and staff.
Okay, great. Well, obviously it's always concerning. I know that people have been, talking about this in the community. And, I think we just want to reiterate that the committee is doing everything possible to keep this within budget. And there's some, other ways we can tackle this. But, the town authorized a certain amount of money to spend on this project through bonding. And so we are going to make every effort to stay within those limits. And so it sounds like we've got some breathing space here for now, but we'll see how things go over the next couple of months with the project as you guys continue to kind of, just get more into the details and get out of the estimating world and into the reality, right? So any other questions that was your last slide, I think, right?
That is my last slide, correct?
Okay. Any other questions from board members?
Nope.
No? Good. So we'll probably end up, having you come back maybe in 2 months, in maybe early May or something like that to get an update on where you guys are. And I appreciate all the hard work and we're excited to see it. Is there going to be another more community input sessions, or are you kind of beyond that now because you're getting into the, kind of design construction kind of phase?
Well, during the land use process, there's going to be a lot
Yeah,
of,
that's right.
hearings, and we'll be communicating with the, the local papers and just getting images out there and publicizing the hearings and things like that. So people have an opportunity to get input. But like I said, we actually reached out to the neighbors and met with them, individually to make sure, and hopefully address as much of that as before we get in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, because the intent is to kind of capture that on the plans and estimate it so we don't have any surprises. But we'll always have some surprises.
Nature of the beast, right? All right. I guess with that, then we're ready to move on. Thank you very much for your time and look forward to, a further update in a few months. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Jeff.
having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
That was weird. I just lost my whole screen. I don't know what happened. Okay. Moving on to item number 7. Review draft ordinance for property tax exemption for Gold Star parents and spouses. And if Orietta could join us, please. And this is most of the board members here. We discussed this. I think it was back in October. And I think there was general agreement. We just had a few outstanding questions that we needed to get resolved. It might have been November or something like that. And this is relating to providing tax relief for a Madison family that had lost a loved one serving our country in the military. And I think the board was very supportive of providing some sort of benefit. It is some towns across the state do this, and we wanted to move this forward. I think there was just some technical legal questions that had to be answered on the draft that had been provided to the board previously. And we got those resolved. And so in your packet is that ordinance, and then we would call a public hearing, and then, approve the ordinance if, everybody we're comfortable after community feedback. I thought, Orietta, if you could just spend 1 second just highlighting the ordinance, just to refresh board members.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about the video here. I'm trying to have my video go on here, a little technical difficulty.
That's okay. We can hear you good. So that's no problem.
Perfect. Okay, so this is, it's a municipal option to provide an exemption for parents or surviving spouses of a surviving spouse of a person killed in action while performing active duty military duty. The state allows municipalities to increase the income limits over the state income levels for tax relief. There are income levels limits. Currently, the income limits for the state is $40,300 for single, and then $49,100 for married. By increasing it to $25,000, it brings the married income limit to $74,100 and the single limit to $65,300.
And I think the thinking here was to be more in line with obviously our demographics, and also align with the income levels that seniors receive benefits, tax benefits here in Madison. Correct, Orietta?
Yes, absolutely.
Those numbers. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the application period is between February 1st and October 1st. And, if anyone has any questions, they feel free to reach out to my office.
And I think the maximum benefit would be $20,000 off of assessed value, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, it's a $20,000 exemption.
So that comes off your assessed value, and then you would be taxed on a reduced amount. So
yes.
So I think that the ordinance is pretty straightforward. I don't know if there's any additional questions. I mean, this actually would really only impact a very small demographic here in our community, but I think it's just symbolic and providing this to those who are eligible. So it won't have a huge budgetary impact, but it does, enable us to offer what I think is an appropriate benefit for an incredible loss that people experience. So any further,
Orietta, could you just, in round numbers, could you tell us what the dollar value of the exemption is for somebody who qualifies?
Mm-hmm. So if we applied it to last year's mill rate, it would be approximately, $588.
And is the $25,000 a state number, or is that a number that we calculated?
No, that's what's allowed by the state. That the town, the municipal option, the town can elect to go up to $25,000 additional to their state program.
Okay, so those are limits that are imposed on us by the state.
Exactly.
And we've maxed those limits out.
Yes.
And then the $20,000 reduction in assessed value, is that also a state guideline?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, I think so long as we've maxed out what we're allowed to do, I think initially my reaction would be that's not a very big consideration, considering the circumstances of the loss. But we can only do what the state allows us to do. So
right. The maximum is set at 20,000. There is also where the town can go up to 10% of the assessment.
Do we do an either or?
Which would be a more substantial number, correct?
Yeah, it can be. Mhm.
Again, Peggy, I think,
Hmm.
to your point, the universe of people that qualifies for this are thankfully very
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
And I
We
think
wanna
in the
make this
spirit of
open
the
and-
gesture that we're trying to
Yeah.
make here, I would support the, 20 or 10, whichever is
So
greater.
doing the greater of,
I would,
Yeah.
I would agree with Bruce. Let's, we should make this as easy as possible for folks.
but just so just a question though. So my understanding though, if you were to allow the greater of, so is there still a cap on the actual benefit? So if it's 10% of assessed value and the assessed value is $1 million, right? So you're talking $100,000 times the mill rate. There's no cap on the benefit itself. It's just on the assessment. I'm trying, because I thought that there was also a cap on a benefit that could be received.
Yeah, it's the $20,000 exemption or that 10%.
Got
Okay, so it's not, okay,
So it
I
is
thought it
capped.
was both a
Right.
limit on both way. Okay, so it's or, all right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think, understanding the, it is a very small universe, a limited universe, and let's hope it stays that way for a very long time, right? Then we could make that amendment to the draft and add in or 10% of assessed value, a maximum of, or no,
The greater of 20 or
yeah.
10%.
Yeah,
And then when I read it, it looked like the applicant only had to qualify the initial time and then would automatically be requalified. So we wouldn't ask families to resubmit every year.
They do have to submit an application. It's every 2 years and, meet the eligibility requirement. So, it
Yeah.
would be the income limit at that time.
yeah, because you still have the income limit.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
but the income limit doesn't factor into assets.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. All right. Again, the interest is just making that as painless as possible.
So I think we could make that amendment in the language of the ordinance.
Is there any risk of this needing town attorney?
No, this was all
Viewing?
reviewed already.
Okay,
This was all reviewed. And it was originally modeled off another community also, if you recall. I think it was Glastonbury.
Yeah.
And then we kind of just refined some things and the attorney reviewed and made some changes. So I think that I'm comfortable making that. I mean, it's a small pool. So if we could amend the language to that, then we could put out that draft, I guess. So basically 8 would be, we're not approving it after the hearing. So we could put out the revised draft for the hearing and go and then approve it at our next meeting. Does that seem to work for everybody? Get this kind of
Yeah.
checked off?
yeah, no, I
Great.
think it's the right thing to do. Absolutely.
Okay, great. So
Yep.
with that amendment, item number 8 is discuss and take action to approve calling a public hearing in Town Campus Room A and on Zoom on Wednesday, March 27th, 2023 at 6:30 PM for the following purpose. Review of draft ordinance for property tax exemption for Gold Star parents and spouses.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, no further discussion. We'll amend the ordinance and post that tomorrow and post a notice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right, Orietta, thank you. And just if you could amend that language, I'll check it this afternoon and then we'll get this thing posted. Okay,
Okay,
great. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
sure. Yep.
Okay, item number 9 is just following on our special meeting from Thursday. And the draft ordinance that you received is I think it was sent out yesterday, where they just removed Article 1 and made Article 2 Article 1, which was dealing with retail sales. So item number 9, just discuss and take action to approve calling a public hearing in town campus, room A, and on Zoom on Monday, April 24th, 2023 at 6:30 PM for the following purpose: review of draft ordinance regulating cannabis sales and cultivation in the town of Madison. I'm just making a correction there.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're also, just further discussion, we'll post the ordinance tomorrow, and then we're also going to launch a survey. So I think you had a draft Guilford survey. If you have any feedback on that, send it to myself and Sherry Cody, because she's going to, I think, work, and we'll get that launched hopefully in like a week's time to get the survey information. And then this guy, we set the public hearing kind of later in April to allow for a lot of public notice and also to get some feedback.
So Aaron had some late comments on the draft. Can we move her over into the meeting and just let her explain her thoughts?
Okay, so I think we weren't really going to be making amendments to the draft, but
I want to make sure that what we move forward for the hearing is a workable document and
yep.
Morning.
Good morning.
I don't know if you were prepared, Aaron, to speak after sending out your email there.
No, but I was reading through it this morning while you were going through the school, and I didn't have an opportunity to read through it yesterday afternoon. My only question is, and maybe these are more specifically for Carrie, consistency with the definitions in the entire RERACA bill, as they call it, which is Public Act 21-1. Our definitions are not verbatim with the statute, and so I guess the question is, do we want to have that language match, or do we want to kind of summarize what each defined term is? My other question more specifically is that this ordinance, this draft ordinance, prohibits medicinal marijuana facilities as well, and those are currently permitted in the zoning regulations. So I do think we need to clarify that because that now we have a conflict between the zoning regulations and this draft ordinance. The zoning regulations define medicinal marijuana dispensary facility and allows that use by special exception in the commercial zones. And in the light industrial zones, by special exception, we allow a medical marijuana production facility. And those are in the definitions that Carrie had drafted, that is covered under a cannabis dispensary facility, and those are prohibited in this draft. It also indicates citations or an offense, per offense, $250 fine, which I believe is under the statutes that she references for our enforcement abilities for citations. It reminds me of our anti-blight ordinance and the process to do that, which includes an appeals process, a hearing procedure, and that's consistent with the statutes 7-152. So I don't know, there's no process.
When we talked about this on Thursday, the idea was just to have something out there about banning to generate public input. We have not asked her to necessarily, this was pulled together quickly and modeled off of Clinton's, I think. So the question is, do we want to just have the public hearing? It's not as if we would necessarily vote on the ordinance. We can, at the public hearing, make amendments to the ordinance at that time and have Carrie weigh in and
That's
answer
fine.
your
I just
questions.
want to at least
No, I'm just trying to figure out procedurally, because I would
other
like to get
regulations. So
So I agree, Peggy. I think the things, the topics that Aaron brings up are good, but they're technical in nature, not substantive to the intent of the ordinance. So I think moving it forward for public review and hearing is probably okay. We just got to go into it knowing that we may have to make some technical changes.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
we could
that
just
we,
give
part of the
Carrie a heads up
difference
too.
between medicinal and adult recreational use or retail establishments, that does need to be clarified,
right.
you know, for the hearing, I think. Is this a
Well, but if,
prohibition? Are you
but I'm just saying.
recommending
no, we
prohibition
are
of medicinal?
I think that technically we could, the town could decide now to ban it, I think, couldn't we, if we wanted, not saying we wanted to, but I'm just saying this would override any zoning at this point, right? If we were to pass an ordinance, zoning would have to change its regulations. I'm not saying we want to do that for medicinal, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
I didn't know if you
Yeah.
realized that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I didn't realize that. So I think that's
Okay.
all very good and important feedback. And I think that, you know, the problem is when we set these hearings, you have to go with the document that you have, which is kind of a pain. I would rather do that and then come forward at the hearing with some proposed amendments to the language, at least, you know?
I think so.
And that'll give you time to carry some feedback, you know, we'll have like a markup. I'm just trying to think otherwise, because our next meeting is not until, and it's just going to delay this again.
No, I agree. I think we move
That's
forward with the
fine.
draft that we have.
Okay,
I just
Okay.
wanted to at least get you my comments.
Yeah.
So you knew ahead of the hearing.
yeah, no, those are good. And I think in between, because we've got time, we should definitely, you know, loop back and get, because she didn't draft this looking at her regulations. This was, we asked her for this quickly. It's just a simple ban. So, so I think those are all important things to highlight.
Okay.
Right. And Peggy, to your point about the ordinance and the medical marijuana, I think it's a natural time for us to ask in the hearing, given that no retail establishments come forward to date, does the community want to rethink its position on medical marijuana and include it in the ban? So yeah, no, I'm comfortable moving this conversation forward.
Same.
Yeah. Okay, good. We'll do that. And then I think we will, Aaron, set up a time, give feedback, and then we'll come up with some proposed changes that we might make in the public hearing to the document. And then we could also set our board to take action at another meeting after the public hearing. I think we just wanted to get this going at this point. So, all right, if that's good with board members, then all in favor of calling the public hearing as read earlier, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay, thank you. And Aaron, you can stay on. And also, Jean, if you could invite up Sherry Cody for the next item. I actually kind of mislabeled this. This is the town signs, because I know Scott always asks me, what's going on with the town signs? So
My favorite topic.
yeah. So actually the next step is going to be getting a formal proposal from vendors for the signs, but I thought at least, and Sherry's going to be working on an RFP to go out for this, but Aaron and Sherry have worked up just kind of a mock of what it could potentially look like and then give a list of locations. So I thought I can give that as an update today. They'll launch the RFP and then you'll get actually the proposal that they finally decide on probably in, 4 to 4 weeks or something like that. So this is, if you want to just show the mock-ups, Aaron, or and the list, either
Sure.
one of you.
Sherry, you want me to screen share or do you want to?
Okay,
What's that?
go ahead.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
sure. Just kind of put together, and Sherry, maybe you would articulate this a little better, but basically, Sherry and I kind of worked to put forward, and Sherry put the application before ARPA for funding for gateway signs, welcome signs, Town of Madison welcome signs at 10 entrance points essentially into town. Those would include the north end, as you can see here. I can scroll out a little bit more here. The north end at Durham and Killingworth line, essentially on 79, the east and west entrance points on Route 80, and the east and west entrance points on, the Post Road at Guilford and Clinton, and then 5 additional off ramps for Interstate 95. So those were the 10 locations that were proposed to ARPA, and funding was received. And the funds totaled, I believe, 67,000. Sherry,
Correct.
was that?
Yes.
And that includes additionally some money for solar lighting so that those could be illuminated during nighttime hours without added expense to the town. So we had met with a couple of vendors just to kind of get an idea and understand signs a little better and materials and so we saw a couple of examples that we thought were kind of nice, and starting from fresh here, we decided to use an example that we saw from the town of Voluntown that was really nice, carved letters. It's a high density urethane material, which is carvable. It wears like wood, but is a lot more durable. And so we just had some renderings put forward, various colors, various options. We kind of liked the shape, but are really looking for some feedback from the board. And I can give you
just before you move from that slide, just because I live here in good old North Madison, and the other zip code, is there a way to put a sign also in the circle? I mean, it's just such a focal point of our town.
That's a good question, Scott. So the gateway sign is the first step in our wayfinding sign package. And there are other phases. One will be directional signage, and that's pretty much what's on the green now, or on the circle now, in terrible condition. And we have a bunch of these throughout town. That's our next phase, is to get, once we get a style that we like now going forward, and trying to design these gateway signs, update them. We do have a map and location of all of those signs as well in town. And just to make sure that the wording is appropriate for what we have. So it's not, our thought was not a general welcome to Madison, since you are kind of in the middle of Madison.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, great.
But I agree with you that we do need to have more directional signage, and that would be one of my recommended locations for that.
Cool.
So these are really just the gateways in. Okay, so this is just a general shape, and the wording is really just to kind of fill out this bottom section. Not, it was an example that we saw, but we like the proportions of having something larger, but we're not quite sure what to put there yet. So if anyone has suggestions, we're open to that. So this is just a white on white with black. And the signs, the town seal, really as our image on the signs. We don't necessarily have any other branding logos or images, so we went with the town seal, which we thought was fairly consistent. And again, posts, shapes, this is all subject to change. Here's an example of blue, like a navy kind of color. And these are gold. The gold is gold leaf that was proposed and recommended, actually. If we were going to use any gold with a sign contractor, they did recommend gold leaf. Here's one, just adding a little bit contrast with the finial on the top, sticking with the blue. Sherry and I did kind of look to other neighboring towns. Here's one with a white post with just a blue finial option and a blue base, I should say. And it's interesting. We have some greens in Guilford, green with white poles in Guilford. Clinton has a brighter blue with white posts. Old Saybrook has all blue. But it's not a navy blue, and their posts and sign are the same color. There's really a lot of options. We were trying not to copy one of our neighboring communities, but to have at least a shape that is unique to the town, and perhaps colors. We were recommended to steer away, excuse me, from reds for signs. We were trying to steer away from any general DOT directional sign colors. But these are just some starting points. Does anyone have any feedback on shape, color? What do you like? What you don't like?
Well, I have to say, I really like the navy post, navy sign, gold finial
Yeah, me too.
version.
Yeah.
My concern with the white is, could there be yellowing over time, or, you know, a dinginess that comes about? That's my concern with the white.
Lower maintenance.
Well, yeah, I mean, and
So
these
that will-
can be finished down. My understanding is that they can all be touched up over time. You know, you take the sign off and touch them up. The white, that's the problem we're facing currently with our signs, is that greenish algae growth on them, and they can't come clean, the whites. So you will, and as these are at off ramps and things, we may, if we didn't go with a vinyl material, which I'm personally not a fan of vinyl, but others may be, you may find that they get dirty easier.
So no particular comment on color schemes. I've learned to not offer my opinion on colors over the years. The crossbar, would there be an opportunity to maybe make that larger and make it suitable for variable messaging? Something that could be inserted in areas where it's safe to do so. You know, it could be, you know, hey, you know, the July 4th parade is on this date, or the concert on the green is on this date, or
Maybe it's like a second bar or something, Bruce. So there's like 2 bars and you insert one or something.
or something larger. So it would only be in locations where it's safe to go and do it. And I'm thinking of pre-canned kind of things that get slapped up temporarily.
We do that at like the North Madison Congregational Church and the Firehouse. Both have those types of signs where they insert things, and it actually is quite helpful for information.
We can see what it would cost, you know, to have some made up as far as interchanging. I mean, part
Only
of
the
that,
best. Only the best for Madison. Only the best.
part of that, what's nice about that is that it does serve as a support for the sign as well. So I think
Yeah, you're right.
it's important to have that cross. But yeah,
Maybe the second one, there's a way to do it with chains, or I don't know. There's some, you might have to look at the ones that are up there, but it's pretty creative design.
You could ask
I'm
that
curious
as,
on the,
as,
go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, you could just in the RFP, you know, ask for ideas for that, you know,
Yeah.
and see if they have anything. It may be that keep in mind, now somebody has to go out there and update them. And,
or
you
that,
know,
and we don't want
so-
them stolen.
Yeah, so, right, and so you've got that element too, because, you know,
Fair point.
not that, you know, we can have Public Works go out and swap it out, but then it's something that has to be kept up on, especially if there's multiple locations that we use it, so.
We can look.
Is the cut, so just back to color for a sec. Is this, because when I look at this, I'm looking at Peggy's background and I look at this and I see black. So this looks like black and gold to me.
Well, so I think Peggy's color is a Ben Moore color.
All right, there you go.
Which is one of the historic colors. We can get other options for, the idea was to at least go with a navy, so that the brighter blue in the seal stood out with the color, but there are so many, I mean, when you look at the Pantone, you can match anything and everything. So I don't know that the town has a true navy that's been the adopted. I don't even know if navy is our color.
I like
I
the
mean,
Ben
we're a
Moore
coastal
color.
community,
My
so the
suggestion
blue
the
is
Ben
kind
Moore.
of nice.
Yeah, I like the blue too.
Yeah, it's all,
Mhm.
Can change.
I get, my suggestion
Not
is
written in
the
stone.
Ben Moore blue looks nicer.
So the challenge with that is that it matches the state DOT signs a little too much, I think, the blue. But we'll look into options when we do the RFP, and we have professional sign makers come back to us with some suggestions.
Cool.
Yeah, ultimately, they would be, I mean, this is just a rendering. They would be making us some actual sign design drawings.
And given we have blue in the seal too, I got to think that it needs to be complementary as well, right? We don't want clashing colors. Well,
Right.
Bruce wouldn't care, but
Well, and they could also design the seal with white in the background, right? Having the seal be white with the seal in it, and then the blues to kind of create a
buffer.
a break from the blues. So, I mean, it sounds like people want blue, right? So maybe that you could put in the RFP that there was a preference for a blue sign, but and that they would make recommendations based on our seal. I like the blue as well. I think to your point, Scott, I was a little concerned it looked black, but there was one that you had shown a picture of Voluntown that was blue, right? And it looked blue.
No, actually, it was a dark burgundy.
Oh.
I can share.
I
our
really saw that wrong.
inspiration.
I don't remember, to be honest, but okay. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I can show you kind of what our inspiration was. You can see one out in the real world here.
burgundy would stand out.
And I think the
This was kind of
oh,
what
it
we
was
looked
burgundy,
at.
yeah.
Well, I
It
like
was, we really kind of liked the uniform color, which is what
Yeah.
we went with. This is a little softer, their painting, and I think the font is a little challenging for Madison itself. It works beautifully for Voluntown, but that was sort of the inspiration that we had for all one color. And the other thing I wanted to share was that I was contacted by the Garden Club, and they have pledged $10,000 towards welcome signs in the community, and are eager. They've had this on their books for several years now and are eager to donate that money, and to see how best they can use that money. So Sherry and I had, and actually I was supposed to meet with them this morning, but they canceled. So I'll follow up with a Zoom meeting with them. But we had thought, DOT, most of these signs will be through required DOT approval as they're on state roads. And Sherry experienced this in Guilford. DOT will not maintain in a certain area around the signs, and the town is responsible for maintenance of those areas. Guilford opted to have stone base around the signs. And one of our options could be to partner with the Garden Club and have that as landscaped area with some pretty perennials, maybe some annuals seasonally around the signs. And that might be a good use of their money towards each of these locations, that they would do that for the beautifying end of around the signs.
I too like the blue sign, and I heard you indicate that it would be illuminated at night. I just want to make sure that even with the illumination, that it is relatively readable and legible at night.
I agree.
Mhm.
Al gets lost sometimes.
I'm assuming these would be like solar lights, right?
It
So we're
is.
not-
Yep, they're
we're not
little,
gonna be-
the solar mounts on the back,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they're just on a little block
Right.
down on the ground. They work really well, actually, driving by the ones in Guilford. It was a good idea to do the solar.
A suggestion I have on the slogan on the bottom, that maybe you come up with a couple of options and that we get some feedback from the community on that. Have a couple of choices, and that way, we get ahead of some of the people who don't like the slogan that we pick, right? Or you pick, or whoever picks.
We
So
don't
I think
really want to pick, so that's what
I know,
we're
I
asking.
don't want to pick either. So
Somebody come up with a good example of something.
even picking the color is dangerous. So, but I think maybe a slogan that might be kind of fun thing to just do a little survey or something and get community feedback on a slogan. You know, and come up with maybe 3 to 5 options for people to vote on or something. So suggestion, if you guys want to think about doing something like that. And then my other concern is about budget, because we did appropriate money. I feel like this doesn't cover the one at the circle. It doesn't cover the one down at the green, you were saying. More wayfinding signs.
Yeah, these are just welcome signs.
Right, but I'm just wondering if it's worth getting a proposal for both and then having them break out the budget so that we've got a plan for everything that's going to look, it's going to be one vendor, you know, it's all together. And then we can only fund maybe the welcome portion, or maybe not. Maybe it comes back, you know, where we can fund some of the wayfinding signs or something. That way we've got a whole plan, and then we can make decisions about additional funding if we want to go forward with the whole thing. Do you have like a list of the wayfinding? You have those, right? Because I remember we had an RFP.
There was a plan, a preliminary plan done back in 2018, I think 17 or 18, and that included gateway signs, wayfinding signs, and also pedestrian signs down in Madison Center. And it was an extensive, it was a lot of signs. There's one of those signs has been constructed, the pedestrian sign, and that's at the entrance of Tuxas Walkway. But I think, we may want to rethink that type, and some of the wayfinding signs we may be able to do, rather than having them as carved signs, actual retro reflective metal signs, just like we have the DOT can, or Public Works can replace and have fabricated for us, just a little more decorative, you know, maybe a decorative top on them or something. But yes, we have not gone through and identified what all of those signs should say at this point.
I'm just trying to think though, in terms of, you know, that this is phase 1 of the proposal, but that to get an idea, you know, of phase 2, phase 3, so that we have an idea of budget and that it's all going to be kind of consistent. I'd just be worried we go and bid this out. And I do think there's some signs that are just really, it's almost like we should take them down. They look so bad.
I agree.
They're so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my
They
God.
should be
I know.
taken
So
down.
it's
They're
like
embarrassing.
Yeah, and if we could prioritize a couple of those signs, those metal ones, you know, also, if there's enough room in this budget with ARPA, I would love to just get that done, you know. So maybe we have the phasing, we can pick and choose phase 2, we can do a couple of them, and then the rest would come later. I mean, we can talk a little bit. I'm just, you know, just try to maintain that it's consistent. We've got a plan, and then we could appropriate more money or just put it in for next year to, you know, complete phase 2, figure it out. I don't know what the cost is going to be ultimately. Sherry, you did this in Guilford, right?
Yes.
So the budget that we have currently, is that roughly what their budget was for their welcome signs?
I don't think they spent nearly $67,000 on their welcome signs. But I think, just to your point, it's easy enough to build the phases into an RFP, as well as Bruce's suggestion of that second bar, you know, that could be interchangeable. I mean, worst cases, sign makers say no, you know, which is not going to happen. They're going to come back to us with all the options that we ask them for. So it'll give us a good sense of what to expect.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because if we have money in the budget now, I'd love to get some of those metal ones taken care of, the big high profile ones, and just get this done.
The circle.
Yeah. Well, and that is an important, you know, I think the circle and downtown, there's 2 right there that I think we would agree need to be done. So, okay, well, and then, you know, obviously there's much more. I know that other plan had been very extensive, which we would love to get to. It'd be good to have the plan, right? And then it could be a multi-year rollout of signs. But this is obviously going to set the color tones and the, visuals for what they're going to look like when we do this. So they will be coming back with a proposal, and obviously share your views on the logo or the lingo or whatever we put on the bottom of the sign. Hopefully, you'll probably in the next couple of weeks get the RFP rolled out, and then so maybe the end of April or something, we'll have an idea of where we are in this. Does that sound good? Okay, great, exciting stuff. All right, we'll move on to item number 11, discuss and take action to award a contract to Titan Energy for the purchase and installation of EV chargers in the town of Madison, and to authorize the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with this contract. This project will be funded through an Eversource rebate program and a special appropriation approved in 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, great. Bill McMenamin, thank you, Aaron and Sherry, by the way, I appreciate it. Bill, and I know Sherry, if you want to stay on, I know you were kind of working with us at one point on the EV charger project. And Bill McMenamin will join us. You got a memo about this. What happened was we had were going down one path with these EV chargers. We got more information about the actual grant that we were going after that kind of blew up the budget a little bit on this. And so we said, let's take a step back. It was so crazy last year, and we realized I was really much wanting to roll out municipal fleet chargers. We just can't get the vehicles right now. And I think our fleet is really constrained about where we're ready for new cars. We don't want to be buying cars that aren't ready to be replaced just to put in electric vehicles. So we kind of scaled back and came up and reached out, and we've been working with a consultant that is recommended by CCM. They've done this for a number of communities in town. And we said, here's our budget that we were approved for EV chargers. And I think the focus was public use with some municipal use. And they came back and did a whole process for us. And Bill, if you want to just spend a few minutes, we kind of went through, got bids, and came up with this plan. So this is part of the funding that was already approved last year for these. You are muted.
Best part, you can't hear me, right?
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to go through the project. We did Titan got 3 proposals from Loop, Juice Bar, and ChargePoint. And ChargePoint is who we have now. I would say that they're the strongest in the industry. They have a very big market share, and I think they're hit around for a long time. Loop, I think, is a good company as well. And Juice Bar is a firm that's located here in Connecticut. And that's one of the reasons we selected them. They were the low price, and they are a company in Connecticut. And I checked on a couple of municipalities that have them, and they've been happy with them. It's very new though. They're in the last year, these are all becoming pretty new for municipalities. So Juice Bar is the low price. We're going to put one at Memorial Town Hall behind the building in the back, Scranton parking lot by the gazebo in front on the north side where there's an existing service. And the third one be at the Surf Club in the parking lot to the left where the utilities come in. So those are 3 locations that we selected. And I can go through more details, but that's the money that we had with the $65,000. We think we can get those done. We think we can get them in. We still need to go to planning and zoning for site plan modification. Aaron's been helpful we're trying to manage that. We don't have very accurate plans. I'm trying to figure out what we can do for that, but that might be an additional expense we didn't really anticipate. If we have to survey and get maps done, it might cost us more than we had planned, but we're still working on that. That's the only issue that's still up in the air. Any questions? Any more? I'm happy. Go ahead, Peggy.
Just can you refresh? When these are installed, will they be customer paid for from day one, or will they be like the ones behind the post office where the town provided the electricity for free?
So the one behind town, we just started charging. I think it's been a month now. It's going on 2 months. So that was the anticipated process, is that we were going to charge the same thing that we're charging at the north side parking site. So the anticipation is that we will charge.
Yeah, and the charging would be to obviously cover, there's a contractual fee that the vendor charges us. And Juice Bar was actually much lower than ChargePoint. ChargePoint actually was definitely at the high end of the contractual annual kind of maintenance fee that they charge us. And then we did look at tried to get a gauge on the electricity piece also. I don't think we have a full grasp of, what the cost is from an electricity standpoint, but we set our pricing at a level that was recommended to cover both. So, and, I think that we tried to, like I said, that in the long run, the private sector will take all this over, about charging, and it's a fast moving technology, but we thought these were reasonable locations that both, some of where employees could use them, but also the public could use them. So Surf Club and Morrill Town Hall can be used by both, staff members as well as employees. So if we do have electric vehicles, that staff could charge at those two locations. And I think everybody felt like the downtown is heavily used. So having additional options there is a good thing for the small businesses, right? So having more spots, because those spots get used a lot downtown. So this kind of worked with the money. And then we thought we're going to be keeping our eye on, and Titan's going to advise us on the whole next phase, which really should be focused on our municipal fleet in the long run. But we just don't have the cars right now, or the trucks or whatever to charge. So we didn't want to kind of go too aggressive on a municipal rollout until we knew where we were with our fleet.
Peggy, I'm very supportive of moving it forward on this, and I think it's a fine plan that we've come up with. Do we, the selectmen, need to create any kind of an ordinance to empower the police department to provide enforcement for folks who choose to use these as parking spaces, and when they're done charging their vehicle, don't move away in a timely fashion? I'm not trying to invent a problem that doesn't exist. I guess I don't know the experience of other communities.
It's a good question. I don't necessarily have an answer. I think that, if somebody, I'll speak to them. I mean, it's posted obviously, and these are municipal spots. So maybe we need to get feedback from the police about what the signage should be. I can't recall what's down at the one down on behind the movie theater. But now that we've been charging, I think people are a little more mindful of it, because, the idea is not to just supplement somebody's home charging. It's more economic development activity, attracting people to come down, charge their car while they're going to have dinner or go to a movie, go to the library, things like that. But it's a good question. I'll look into that. Any other questions?
No, I mean, my concern has been and continues that we are not subsidizing the refueling of electric cars with taxpayer dollars. So making the spaces available at the going rate, I think is fine and is a good economic development activity.
Okay, great. And I think it's a good, I feel like it's the right amount. We're just offering a few more options, but it kind of keeps us in line. Other communities are doing, they had like one, and now they're adding a few more, but then they're focusing on the municipal fleet in the future.
Just to follow up on Bruce's line of inquiry, will this generate any revenue for the town? No.
I don't, yeah.
So
I think it's
cost neutral.
Yeah. I think the idea is to be cost neutral. So we need to monitor this. And now that there's a lot of good data that we'll get from the, so when and they'll give us advice on pricing and things like that. So we don't want this to be, a free service, like you said, but we want to recoup as much of the cost that we can. I think it's just more of a community service, economic development tool right now. And like I said, two of the locations will be helpful for staff, because some of our smaller vehicles we're hoping to replace into either plug-in hybrids or all electric. So two of the locations will serve those departments, the Beach and Recreation Department, and then the community center, eventually will be open. So those will be the ones behind Memorial Town Hall. We're saving money because they're actually going to be attached to the building, but that's okay. But that serves, the public for the playground, but then there's also youth and family services there, and then we'll have the community center there. So it'll be it's a kind of a good location to kind of hit both employees as well as, and eventually we'll have other options that we might consider for that.
So are you expecting that these would transition over into dedicated town charging stations when the fleet is large enough?
I think we might. I mean, we'll have to evaluate that because I think that's where Surf Club, obviously, because we do have staff cars there. And then, with the community center and Memorial Town Hall and youth and family all being down there, that's eventually a good spot that we might want to do that. Or it could be both, because you get accounts and you use your credit card or whatever. We could have an account system set up for staff to use it and track it. So
I'm just thinking about the town cars competing with private cars for the spot.
Right. And we might want to dedicate at one point. And so that's where this does, or we might add more, just for municipal. We talked about the senior center rather than Academy or Memorial Town Hall, but I figure right now we don't have those vehicles, and Memorial Town Hall hits the green, it hits the playground, it's a nice central location for a lot of public use right now. But there's going to be more of this coming. And I think, that's where I want a much more thoughtful plan, and Titan will be able to advise us on that. So if everybody's good, then with that, I guess all in favor of approving item 11, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, great. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 12. Thank you, Sherry and Aaron, and Bill. Item number 12 is discuss and take action to approve a special appropriation of $61,194.20 for police department gear, uniforms, and training pending Board of Finance approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and I think Chief Drum is on here. Or Captain Harkins is. Yeah, they're both on, so let them. But I think this is related to the
These are additional budget.
new officers, and yeah. Morning, Jack.
Hi, good morning, all. Real quick before I start on this, if you send us what you're looking for in the signage with the EV chargers, we'll just put it to a commission meeting, and then we approve it, and then we post it as such.
Okay,
just give us a
great.
general description of what it is you'd like.
Okay.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead.
Okay, Jeremy, if you're still on the call, I'll handle this. Just gonna take action. The such appropriation is for the 6 officers that we currently have, 3 in the Post Academy at Meriden and 3 in the Post Academy, New Haven. That's the additional uniforms. That's the additional equipment that is requested for training and the cost of training. The total came to approximately $61,194.20. I spent that out of my general services account. I need to replenish that, and that's why I asked for special appropriation. Obviously, we didn't plan on hiring the 6 when the budget. Well, we were planning the budget in this current year. You might recall we lost 3 officers in the fall. We also had the retirements.
So the headline here is you're finally getting the officers you need.
Yes, I have 1 slot left to fill. That's about it.
Nice.
It is amazing how much uniforms cost. That was kind of the shell shocker to me. So,
I
But I know-
I still think I buy Fillmore.
yeah.
Right.
Yes. So any other questions for Jack or the department? No? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. All right, good. So you guys are covered. looking forward to having the new members join and excited to see this move forward. So
Yes, 3 graduate on April 5th. They'll be joining our ranks that week. That's 2 young ladies and a gentleman. And the second 3 will be graduating on beginning of July.
Nice.
great.
They'll be joining us. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Just in time for July 4th.
Yeah.
Hell of a training.
I know, right? Well, it's
Thank you.
seniority based, isn't it, that assignment? So, all right, thanks a lot. Item number 13, discuss and take action to approve a projected cost increase for the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-550 ambulance chassis project for Madison EMS that was previously approved in CIP fiscal year 2021 to 22. Amount to be funded from the ambulance replacement fund pending Board of Finance approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, great. And did something make it into the packet on this? Because I know we were waiting. Oh yeah, Russ is here. Okay, great. But this is just, Russ, if you just want to explain. This was, I just need the dollar amount actually, don't I?
Russ, you're on mute.
Russ, I think that's what I might have missed an email here. So the I need the dollar amount to put in the motion. So I'm going to have to amend my motion.
Yes, absolutely. So at the time, I didn't have the dollar amount for the
Yep.
agenda item. I did speak with Stacy last week. So just a quick brief history. We were approved for $192,500 in fiscal year 21-22 through the CIP project. There's been obviously some cost overruns due to supply chain issues. And also, instead of getting a 2022 Ford F-550, Ford is no longer producing those. So we upgraded to a 2023 Ford F-550. And that was, due in part to the production. We also are anticipating some issues with the remounting. So the patient compartment will probably need some repair work. And when the salesman came down last week to inform us that there was quite a price increase from 1 year to the next, we had him also look at the patient compartment of the ambulance, and he let us know that there would be some other costs associated with that, which we weren't budgeted for. So the initial increase was $18,214. That was the quote from the 22 to the 23 upgrade, and also some parts increases and also some electrical component increases as well. That the salesman let us know last week regarding that. And then when he did his walkthrough, he also came up with another $5,358 in associated costs to the ambulance patient compartment that will be going on to the brand new cab chassis. So that total is $23,572. I anticipate some more issues with the box once it goes down to the New Jersey dealership, and they will be going through it with a fine tooth comb and recommending any repairs or any upgrades. So I'm requesting an amount not to exceed $30,000, and like the agenda item says, to be funded from the ambulance replacement fund.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to amend my motion because we actually didn't vote on it, right? So I'm going to amend my motion to discuss and take action to approve a projected cost increase in an amount not to exceed, I'm sorry, what was the amount? Not to exceed
$30,000.
$30,000 for the purchase of a Ford F-50 ambulance chassis for Madison EMS as on the already on the agenda. Amount to be funded from the ambulance replacement fund pending Board of Finance approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, my only thing just to highlight that there's adequate funds, I'm assuming, in the replacement fund. So I think, this is just what we're dealing with a lot of these vehicles, the costs. So luckily we have money already saved, and we'll have to deal with the replacement fund maybe next year when we review it at CIP and see where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Russ, do you actually have a slot in the build queue or a chassis available?
So, yes, so pending Board of Finance meeting tomorrow night. I've been told that the salesman is ready for this piece of apparatus as soon as we can get all the necessary approvals. So it will not be here next week. So provided the Board of Finance meeting goes well.
I'm sure it will. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, great. Thanks a lot, Russ.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep, and you might want to just make sure that 30,000, a memo or a note gets to the board, because I don't know if we've gotten anything about the amount, so.
Not the current amount, no.
Yeah, that's what I knew it was coming. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And item number 14, I'm going to amend what's on the agenda, discuss and take action to award a contract for strategic planning services to S-Brands, and B, approve appropriating up to $65,000 in funds from the planning reserve account pending Board of Finance approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, great. This is just the memo that I sent you. Great process that we went through, got some good feedback. And I think I had hoped to not spend this much on this project, but at the same point, I think the quality that we saw of the consultants, and we just felt if we're going to do this, let's do it right. And I think everybody felt great about, we got a lot of good consultants, you know, and it was a tough choice. I know there's a lot of back and forth amongst different members of different preferences, but everybody felt comfortable with the final selection. And so any additional questions on that, we'll give probably next month, have them come and talk to you and give you an update and walk through the process timeline and stuff like that. Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. Excited to get that moving forward. Last item is just the liaison assignment to the Ad Hoc Facilities Committee. Board member, is anybody dying to do this?
I'm happy to do
I'll
it.
be the
if-
default if nobody wants it, but
Al wants it if he wants to raise his hand. But I mean, I was on the first committee, so I mean, I guess I can be the continuity if.
excellent.
I think it's one of those, you know, there'll be important meetings, obviously, that you'll want to attend, but there's, you know, and there's great, I know the, you know, two public members, we've got some great people on the committee. So I know one of the things, I don't know if we talked about it, we got a lot of applications on that, didn't we?
14 or something. It was huge.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just to think about, we could expand the chart, you know, expand it to add 2 additional members of the public if you felt like, I meant to raise this last time, but I think we just had other priorities when we voted for the 2 appointments. So I'm just laying it out there as a thought. Maybe we get the committee convened, but if we wanted to add additional members of the public, we could do that and go from a 7 to a 9 committee. So food for thought, because it's great to see all the people who are interested. All right.
We definitely made suggestions for them to look at other boards
Okay.
and
Good.
commissions as well. So we were wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
All right, great. So with that, I know, Scott, you have a hard stop, so we'll just open it up to citizens' comments. Do we have any hands raised?
There are no hands raised.
I'll just call it one more time for members of the public. I don't really see any members of the public on here. So with that, no more citizens' comments. I guess, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
Moved.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
See ya.
We'll move on. Thank you.